In this video, we're looking at some different types of graphs, starting with some bar graphs. So we have these two bar graphs I have snipped on the right. So I'm going to scroll down and look at some questions on these. So approximately how many internet users are there in Asia? So I'm going to look on my internet users graph. And I'm looking at Asia. And so I look where that bar ends. And I want to look at the numbers before and after that. So it's between 2000 and 2200. It's a little under halfway between, but I can roughly say about 2100. But this is also in millions. So it is 2,100 million, which is not standard to get a better. We can adjust. We've overflowed from the millions to the billions, and this is 2.1 billion internet users in Asia. For the percentage, we find Asia on the percent graph, which is the internet penetration graph, has the percentages here. And Asia comes just about to the 50%, a little below. So I'll say about 50%. If I wanted to be a bit more specific, I could say just under 50%. I could maybe guess 49%, 48%, but a little under 50%. And then we have a question of what continent uses the internet the most? Well, we have to think about that a little bit. There's not a one right answer. It depends how you're thinking about it. Asia clearly has by far the most users, but the fact that that's still only 50% of the population means they also have even more people not using the internet. So if you just went to a location in Asia, you would have less internet users in any given location or among any given group of people. The percent adjusts for population. So Asia has a huge population, so of course they're going to have more internet users, but the percentage is lower. North America has the highest percentage. So even though North America only has around 375 million users, that's almost everybody. It's 95% approximately of the population. So it would depend on the context. If you're looking at, you want to have a business where you're going to sell to people that have the internet, well, you get a lot of buyers in Asia, more so than in North America. But you'd also miss a lot of people in Asia. So if you want to kind of get the most bang for your buck and reach everyone in an area, North America and Europe would get you there. If you're wanting to sell new internet service, maybe Asia or one of those lower percentage, Africa, Asia, and so on, would get you a lot more people that don't have it that could be offered that. So you could say Asia, or you could say North America, depending on what you consider to be most. Generally, anything like most, best, better, worse are going to depend how you define things. Now we have another bar graph here. This is showing interest rates in different years. So we can read this graph and say, what was the interest rate for 2011? Here's 2011, and we look at the top of that bar, and it's over here between 3.146 and 3.148. So it's going to be 3.147%. And you may already be noticing like these are really close together. We had to get to the third thousandth of a percent before they were different. When we look at just the bars for 2008 and 2009, like the height of those bars, it looks like the 2009 is twice as tall as 2008. 2010 looks like twice as tall as 2009. Are those interest rates actually doubling? Well, if you look over at the actual numbers, this is going from 3.141 to 3.142. It's gone up by 1,000th of a percent. So definitely did not double. So looking at this graph, we have this doesn't start at zero. And with bar graphs, we tend to assume that the height of the bars is meaningful, not just the location of the top of the bars. And that would make this misleading. Now, it could be valid to zoom in on the top of those bars. If we went all the way down to zero, this would be a very long way because we would only, like, we've gone from 3.14 to 3.154. So if we went like this distance again, would get us down to 3.143. We would have to do that 313 times to get down to zero. So that would be not miles, but definitely several 20 or 30 feet down. So down into the basement below me, if there is one, to reach zero. So if you actually had the graph going from zero and had it be a reasonable size, you wouldn't even see those changes. It would just look pretty much flat. So if you do want to emphasize for a valid reason to kind of focus in on those changes, this could be valid, but you could include some sort of graphic like showing that like, oh, there's more graph below this and these have been sort of compressed or something, or make it clear that you're not trying to say anything about the size of the bar. The line graph might be more suitable to represent this. We do have line graphs in this next example, and we're looking at reading them and looking at what they're saying. So put this up here. And okay, so we have a stock and we're showing for on the green graph going from sometime in May to sometime in June, about a month for that. And then on the red graph going from 2024 through 2025, at least about a year, looks like. So during which month did the stock have the largest decrease in value? If we look at the green graph, any decreases there, like the physical size of them, isn't relevant. Like you might say, well, this is a big decrease compared to on the red graph. I would say here is the biggest decrease, but we can't compare the physical size. We have to look at the scale, and this is going from 120. It's from almost 160 down to 120, and this whole graph only goes from 92 to 102. So this is going down by, let's say, from 99 to 95, so about 4, and this is going down by closer to 20, maybe 15, 16. No, sorry, closer to 40, somewhere like 30, 35 maybe. So definitely much bigger. So that is falling. If this is October and this is December, December starting here. So like this would be December, this would be November of 2024. So this would be happening in November of 2024. And then the lowest value, again, if we look, the lowest value just within the green graph is about 93. And then the lowest value, we can see that here in the red graph. And it looks like it does go a little bit lower in April than it did there in May. So April 2025. So if you're looking just at the green graph and saying, look at this, it stayed pretty steady. It's actually gone up a little bit from the beginning to the end of the month. And using that to say that this stock is doing well or making a significant recovery, Then if you look at the bigger picture, you see it is settled down at a point well below where it had been the year previously, even though it still has ups and downs. Now, that could mean that it's a good time to buy when something's low if you think it's going to go back up, or it could mean that it was overpriced previously and has now settled down to a more accurate measure of its value. Um, but in any case, a line graph that's looking at something over time, which time frame you choose, can definitely affect what appears to be happening. So generally, think about if something significant has happened that may have affected a stock value, for example, and then somebody's showing you a graph that only starts after that happened or ends before that happened, then you would potentially want to question the validity of that. Then looking at this next graph, we have a sort of a pie chart here showing the breakdown of nutrients in a product. They're showing protein here as the biggest, so I'm guessing it's a protein product of some kind. But if you look at this, this is 32 grams for the protein. It's 125 grams of the serving altogether. So this is showing like the majority is protein. That's definitely not the case. We can see the numbers 81 grams carbs. So that should be the biggest section. And then the protein, so they are overselling how much protein. They're making it appear that more of the product is protein than actually is the case. To wrap up the graphs here, we have a pie chart. In this pie chart, we have the slices, we have the color coding, telling what each slice represents. So what time of day did the smallest percentage of office workers feel they're most productive? Well, we can look at the slices and kind of have to eyeball it. It looks to me like the purple is the smallest. The orange would be close, but I'm pretty sure the purple is smaller than the orange. Um, that's all I can go by is just the sizes. And then I look and the purple seems to be after office hours here. If I was colorblind, I would probably not be able to tell that. Um, so I had to kind of guess at the sizes and hope that I can tell the colors and match them properly. For B, what percentage of office workers feel they're most productive in the late morning, early afternoon? I look at the legend, late morning, early afternoon is this dark green. I want to be a little careful because these look pretty similar, but it's the dark green, which is this one. And then I have to kind of approximate the percent. A quarter, I think it's not quite a quarter because that would be a right angle. So a little less than a quarter. Maybe 20%, 23%. I don't know. Somewhere around 25%, but a little below. Right. So I can see this graph has some downsides as how it's presented. It's not super easy to get detailed information from it. It's just kind of vibes. But if I remake that graph, here's a new version of it, same information, but now we can answer those questions very accurately. I can see 9% as the lowest percentage and immediately see that goes with after office hours. I can see late morning, early afternoon, and the percentage is right there. So this is a improvement on that, giving that information of not having to worry about the colors and being able to see colors, not having to guess at the percentages. So this is a more useful graph.